How's it going, guys? I just wanted to jump on here today and give you a quick presentation on exercise selection and kind of the fundamental things that we like to go over when picking out movements for clients or even ourselves. So the first thing we like to cover is what type of stimulus or stimuli are we trying to elicit with this exercise or workout. If it's going to be a neurological thing, that would be like increasing neurological intensity, neurological efficiency. Prime example of something like this is powerlifting. A lot of the big compound movements, especially in those lower rep ranges, are going to be very neurologically intensive, and those are going to be things that we would use to help improve the neurological system or any real max effort type of stuff, right? Hypertrophy, we're going to be trying to increase the size of the tissue, so that could either be with mechanical damage, so actually making the tissue larger. You could be doing it with mechanotransduction, or you could even be doing it with sarcoplasma. So the sarcoplasma is actually the stuff that's in the cell, so it's like the fluid in the cell, and you can increase that as well. So hypertrophy is just increasing the amount of the cell size most of the time when we're talking about strength training. And then a metabolic stimulus is going to be a way for our body to either improve our liver's ability to handle stress. So like CrossFit is a very good example of this. Those very big movements for high reps are going to be very metabolically taxing in a systemic way, and that systemic taxing and fatigue is going to help condition the liver. Or you can do it locally. Doing it locally, you're going to condition that muscle tissue more specifically. Next, we're going to talk about dynamic correspondence. This is really a big thing with training athletes, or really anybody, but athletes it applies more to because we want to make them better at their sport. So this is kind of our checklist to be able to do that. First thing we want to look for is amplitude and direction of movement. If we're taking the farmer's carry in the photo here on the right, the amplitude and direction of movement means we're going to be walking forward, right? So we're going to have to be using those hip flexors, glutes, hamstrings, all the things that make our limbs move, make us bipedal. And then the amplitude is how much effort are we putting forth to doing that. So a farmer's carry is usually going to be a long, consistent effort. It's not going to be something like a max effort. Accentuated region of development. So once again, we're talking about where is this power being created that in this movement. So for this particular one, we have grip strength in our hands and forearms. We have the traps also contributing to the grip strength. And then to actually move, we're going to be looking at our hips, right? So we have the hip flexors, glutes, things like that. That's where we're generating power there. The dynamics of effort, talking about a ballistic effort, possibly a dynamic effort, a plyometric effort. In this case, it's going to be more of that sustained maximal effort. So it's not going to be one of those, quick explosive things like you would have in a, say, football athlete or a sprinter. Rate and time of force of production. So how much time do we have to create the force that we need to do what we're trying to do? In a strongman event, a lot of times they're going to be 60-second events. So we're, once again, that sustained force is not going to be something that is short and quick. Now there are max effort events, and that's going to be, we need to move that heavy weight as fast as possible because gravity is going to win eventually. So kind of a difference there. Regiment of muscular work. So what actual muscles do we need to make better to be able to get better at our sport? So this last one is kind of the one that most people cue in on right away and try to fix, but it's the other four as well that you want to work on as well. So doing that, what we can do is kind of use this as a checklist. If I'm looking at exercises, I can have exercises that, a general exercise will only cover one of these things, whereas something that is very sport specific will cover all 5 of these things. So we have a wide range there, deciding on what exercises are good for our athletes. Other variables that we consider: equipment. So what equipment is available, or even more what I find myself doing often is what equipment are people comfortable using? If this is something we want to make sustainable and even slightly enjoyable for someone, we want them to be using things that they're comfortable using, or at least that they can get the job done with, right? Next is going to be athletic IQ. So if I have somebody who doesn't understand what flexion, extension, internal rotation, external rotation, things like that are, well, me describing FRC to them with my FRC terms is probably not going to go over very well, and they're not going to get it. So understanding their IQ of what it is that I'm asking them to do. So a lot of times maybe we just use simple words like, I need you to rotate the upper part of your arm to 90 degrees, or keep it elbow at 90 degrees and rotate the upper part of your arm as far as you can, whatever it may be. Which leads us into our mobility thing, right? So if you don't have the mobility to get into these positions that you want people, or these exercises, how are you going to be able to accomplish that? Just shoving shit together and hopefully it works. So making sure you have the mobility for the exercise is also a big one. The last one, and one that I find to be one of the most important ones, is body awareness. So with these big compound movements like squats, presses, things like that, body awareness is going to be a really important factor in being able to do these things efficiently, which then would lead to doing them heavy, right? So if you're not able to feel what your body's doing, it's going to be hard to be efficient with your movement. If you're not efficient with your movement, you're not going to be able to generate maximum power. If you can't generate maximum power, you'll not know what your max strength is. So if we are strength training, having that body awareness is going to be one of those big things that, athletes have a big head start on this. But anyone can gain body awareness, and using something like FRC as that foundational piece to help with this is nothing but beneficial. So if you guys have any more questions on exercises, I'll probably be covering specific exercises in the future. I just wanted to give you a brief overview of how we start to pick the exercises for what we're trying to do. Thank you.